Carol Charles. I'm a videographer with CTV News. I've been a part of this company for just over 4.5 years. Now, when I say video journalist, I mean I shoot my own stories. I report on them. But at times I also work with reporters, so I will help them. I will shoot B-roll for their stories, edit, and go live with them. So it's double duty.
So you pick your own story, or they need to tell you like the assignment?
You know what? It's a combination. We're generally assigned stories, but I take the initiative. I do come up with some of my own story ideas, and I'm able to shoot them.
I see. So you start with like journalist, or you start with already video journalist or videographer?
Yes.
You do.
Yes, sorry, could you repeat that for me?
Yeah, my question is that, I mean, when you joined CTV, you joined as a videographer?
Yes, I joined as a videographer. They were looking for somebody who could multitask, and that's what I did. I was trained at TorontoTv, and at that particular office, it's a smaller environment, a smaller market, and really everyone in that office was a videographer, so I had my training there for about just over 2 years.
Is the term videographer is the new term in the media field, or it's been like for years?
You know what, it's been bandied about for, the term videographer has been used for a long time. I think, it is a craft. It is a craft to be able to shoot, edit, and report your own stories. Within a market like CTV, it's tough because we run 3 shows, a noon hour show, a 6 o'clock, and an 11:30. So at any given time, I could be assigned to a story, but if something else breaks, I'm reassigned. So it's not an easy venture to operate as a videographer in this market, but I make it work. I plan ahead. I know what stories I'm looking for, and sometimes stories fall into your lap. So, it's a question of planning and using your time efficiently. When I do a story, I have an idea of what I want. I have an idea of the questions. I have an idea of how I'm going to package it even before I get back to the office. So it's, I have to do the technical end as well as the journalistic end. So I really use my time efficiently and give myself a barometer of this should take me that long. The interview should take me X amount of time. The B-roll X amount of time. My stand-up, which I also incorporate that element, takes me a bit of time. So I sort of pace myself. How do I do it?
So that means you're reporting in the morning and then editing in the afternoon, and then the show is
exactly
evening. Yeah.
Exactly. So, for example, on the weekend, I shoot in the morning, do my stand-up, come back, work with an editor, usually if I'm in the station, and then it goes to air for 6 o'clock.
Really?
But during the weekday, it's challenging. I mean, if I start at 2:30 on a weekday, I work with a reporter from 2:30 to 6. So I may shoot their story, edit, go live. And then by 7 in the evening, I change roles. I'm now a videographer. I'm shooting my own story and packaging my own story for the 11:30 show. So that's a typical day.
When we talk about like cameraman, videographer, we think about the heavy equipment.
Heavy lifting.
Yeah.
Being a camera operator is not an easy job. My camera is, I believe, a minimum 21 pounds. The tripod is 13 pounds. And factor in walking around with a camera bag, to have your tapes, the microphones, and all those other, requirements. It's a lot of work. And at the end of the day, you're really feeling the toll on your back.
So as people know that the heavy weight of the camera. So is that videographer should be the man's job or not a lady's job?
Oh, it could be anybody's job. It's a tough job, but you know what? I think anyone is capable of doing it. If you really apply yourself, if you want something badly enough, you will do it. I have 4 colleagues in the field right now who are strictly camera operators, ladies, and there was an occasion where it was actually the 4 ladies on the shoot who were all camera operators, and there were 4 men who were reporters. So it was almost a role reversal, but it's a tough job, but it can be done. I mean, I discipline myself. I work out in the mornings. The camera's a workout in itself, but I also work out. I like to swim. I play beach volleyball. So I keep myself very active. So if you keep yourself active and conditioned, you can do the job. It's not easy, but it's doable.
But okay, as in the media field, do you see a trend that like ladies taking more jobs and roles than men right now?
Absolutely, I've seen that trend. I know 4 colleagues, who are camera operators, and they are strictly camera operators. They don't want to be reporters, but I find more and more women are interested. I have had 3 interns in the last, I'd say, year who have approached me, who wanted to come out and job shadow. They want to learn how to use the camera. I'm actually coaching one right now, and she's great. I mean, she is a real go-getter. She wants to learn how to use the camera. So I'm getting a lot of inquiries from community colleges, from people I know in the community who would like to train and use the camera. What they've said they've noticed is a lot of the postings are for videographers. In the smaller markets, a lot of the postings are asking for videographers. So it's no longer enough to know one job. They're asking for at least 2.
So, and say in your career as a videographer, so do you find it like memorable, good things, or nice things?
There are good things, and then there are some real, sad things. I mean, what I enjoy most about videography is I've got the creative control. I know what shots I want. I know the interviews I want. The final package is what I've set in motion. So having the creative control is very, I think it's important. But then again, the drawbacks, it's tough. When you are sent out on an assignment and you've got to get a number of different elements and you're on your own. There's been occasions where I've gone to, let's say for example, a murder scene. And I need to be able to keep my eyes on the scene, canvass the neighborhood for information or photos, and get all of those elements at once. And it's tough to do it on your own. A scenario like that is very tough on your own at night, for example, when I tend to work. So it's tough because you don't have that second person. And it's tough because sometimes in the nature of getting the information to air, a stand-up, for example, takes a little longer. I have to position the camera on the tripod, shoot myself, and shoot it reasonably quick. Whereas if you have a camera person and a reporter, it's just a question of coming out and getting it done. It takes me a little more time to get those elements than it would a 2-person operation. So it's a bit tough, and sometimes it's a physical job. I mean, there was a bear in Newmarket that was apparently on the loose. It was about a month ago, and we waited for this bear. We had a stakeout, a group of us staked out in a park for 5 hours. Finally, somebody noticed the bear running at the top of the park, a peak. He basically jogged through the park, over a creek, and into a neighborhood. And we're running with the camera on the side, and at the end of that shift, I was exhausted. I mean, running with 23 pounds on your shoulders for about a mile is really, it's a physical job. So those are the days where you just wish it was a straight, all the elements are at an event, you shoot it, you leave. And it doesn't happen like that all the time. The stories break all the time, and you really have to adapt to whatever story you put into.
So I mean, working in a news environment, like every day, everything is new.
Everything is new. We don't always have. I mean, there is an assignment sheet, and given we all get assigned, but things happen in the middle of the day, and you have to adapt it. You've got to change. You may drop what you've been working on for 3 hours and move to another story that's more important.
Yeah. So you're working in the large corporation like CTV. Do you find it like mid pressure from the large corporations or?
Oh yeah, working in a corporation like CTV is tenfold the demands of working in a smaller station like I did at Checks TV. At Checks TV, we only had one show we filed for, which was the 6 o'clock. So we had the entire day to work on the story and work on it, to perfection. At this station, we've got 3 shows that we have to be responsible for: the noon hour, the 6, and the 11:30. And the demands are both for me to work with other reporters, and I work independently. So it's tremendous demands because you just never know how long you could be on a story, and you've also have to file your story on time. You're expected to make your time slots and make them on time. So it's a lot of pressure, because if you're not able to file on time, you could jeopardize part of the show. If they're expecting something, they expect to deliver it on time. So it's the pressure is there when you have 3 shows that you're responsible for filing for.
So as a lady or a female, that do you find any difficulty moving up your career in large corporations like this?
You know what? It's difficult, but it's not impossible. I think it's difficult because TV is not my life. I enjoy what I do. I really love my career, but I also, like any other woman, think about family. And family is something that's very important to me. I come from, a fairly big family. I've got 3 elder siblings. And one day, I'd like to have a family of my own. So it's a balancing act. I mean, right now, I give of my time as much as I can. And I'm more than happy to, step up to the plate, do overtime and all of those other things. But, I'm also looking at starting a family at some point soon. So it's tough because men don't have that, I think, same, sense of urgency. They don't have that sense of urgency that I have to get married right now, I have to have children. It's important to me, and I want those things. So for me now, it becomes a question of when and how it's going to happen. So that's, I think, what's always tough for the woman. You want to move up, and eventually, I don't want to do videography indefinitely. Eventually, I'd like to just report, possibly anchor. That's what I'd like to do down the road. I'd like to be an anchor.
So you mean anchors, more money, more stable work?
Yeah, exactly. More money, more stable work,
no more 20 times.
No more, staking out the bears or, staking out the courthouse. So, I want more. And I actually like sports, too. So I'm thinking about sports anchoring. Maybe one day. It may or may not happen, but I like sports. So I'm thinking about sports anchoring or anchoring in general.
Everybody knows that Canada is a multicultural society.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you see this kind of a scenario?
With videography?
Yeah.
You know what I do? I'm a firm believer in, incorporating all elements of the community into our program. Right now, CTV, and you may not be aware of it, we're the official media sponsor for Caravana. And we actually have recruited a strong team of people in the corporation who have, literally yesterday we put on a barbecue. We're entering a float in the parade next week for the first time. CTV's never been a part of that. And I make it a point of trying to go to as many community functions as possible, because I think when you go to a lot of community functions, you network, you meet people, you generate story ideas. So whether it's the Chinese New Year celebrations in January, which, I did a number of stories on, or Caravana, or the Taste of the Danforth, which I'm, emceeing a fashion show, those opportunities have really opened up story ideas, opened up, a sense of understanding how other communities work, their events, what's important to them, and it's great. And we also have a structure here, actually, editorial board meetings, which we've been running for the last year. We bring in a different community group every month. We sit down with stakeholders in that community and find out, what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? Give us some story ideas. So I've actually gotten a lot of story ideas just from those meetings. Sitting in on those meetings, asking them what's important, tell us what your events are. That one-on-one contact is really the best thing you can do to get to know a community, people, understand what's important to their community. So that's how I've generated a lot of story ideas, by just networking with people.
So when people see you in the news, they say, "Oh, you guys working 24 hours." But what's your work shift?
It feels like we work 24 hours. I mean, my shift is generally, I'm on a rotation, a camera rotation, and we work 2:30 to 10:30, 4 to midnight, 10 to 6, and it could go 7 days on, 2 days off, 5 days back in. So it's a rotation, but it's an 8-hour, but an 8-hour could turn into 12 hours if you're on a location which requires you to stay for the entire, stick it out. We have to stick it out. You just can't leave if you're at a murder scene, for example, and I go back to that. You just can't leave. You've got to make sure you've got all the elements. So it really is. It's not your typical job, and it doesn't leave a lot of time to do much else. I never commit to a lot of, personal projects after work or on the weekends, because I know things can crop up. The London bombings, what happened. you may be off, but you know what? If we're asked to come in, we come in. You know, I mean, for a story of that nature, you do what's right. You come in and you pitch in and you help. So yeah, it's not an 8-hour or 20. It is a 24-hour a day job.
From government's point of view, it's an essential job, right?
It is. It is my job. You know, I see my family occasionally. You know, and I talk to them every day. I talk to my mom every day. But it's tough. It's tough. I mean, when I'm not working, I like to go home and sleep. You know, I'm relaxing. I'm watching. You know, I watch the Discovery Channel. I'll watch other. You know, I need some downtime. And when you're not working, it's downtime is what you need. You just need to relax or do things that you enjoy.
Recharge, refreshing.
Exactly. You know, it's not easy.
So in China seems to be probably more influence in the world, like with the Chinese currency.
Absolutely.
Rising. So how the big media company like CTV, how they see China, or how they have any programs on related to China? Or?
They don't. I don't believe they have any programs on right now. But what I think some of the initiatives that they are trying to do is, again, we had, I don't know if don't quote me on this, but we invited, I believe, I think we've had an editorial board meeting with the Chinese community. And again, we've asked them for a list of, you know, what's coming up, what are some of the important issues, and even our national news department, they take the lead on that. Steve Chow, who is stationed in Beijing right now, takes the lead on a lot of what we're doing, and we have a bureau in China. And we feed him, he feeds us a lot of stories. So right now Steve Chow is our point of contact, but you know, there's no question, we recognize that China is a powerhouse, and there are definitely, you know, there's a gap, there's a gap in some of the information that we need to know to deliver some of those stories better. So I know the reporters are all trying to make an effort to do a little more, but I think management, you know, they're certainly, it's something that they're addressing.
So say you have been working as videographer for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
Any regret?
My only regret, gosh.
No time for yourself.
No time for myself, yeah. It's tough, you know. My boyfriend, he's pretty busy, but, you know, luckily he understands that this is what I do for a living, you know, and it's something that I enjoy. So, you know, he's able to, he understands and he works with me, but yeah, there's not a lot of time. I mean, I had, when I was working in the government, you know, it was 9 to 5, weekends off. Mm-hmm. You know, I could predict where I was going to be every week. But here, there's no predictions. Even sometimes the simple things like lunch and breaks are tough. You know, we sort of work around, you know, your lunch or your break, depending on what you're doing. But yeah, it requires your full concentration and attention to do this job.
So if at one point you're not doing the job of videographer anymore, what will be your next role?
Next role?
Housewife?
Housewife, I'd like. But you know what? I think I'd like to do event planning. Mm-hmm. I might do something along those lines. Mm-hmm. You know, I work with a lot of community groups. I do some different events I've done. Work with the Raptors, United Way, the Junior Carnival, and right now just planning the CTV Caravana initiative. So, you know, and that's the other thing. I think CTV, we're looking at, you know, taking part in many other community events. I mean, next year, the Gay Pride Festival, we may be looking at doing something with that. So we are trying to get more connected with the community, and we want to get out there, you know. So I think those are some of the things that, you know, that are important.
So any advice for like Chinese, ethnic community say, you say you're doing well, move up the career ladder in the large corporations. And for example, for some people from China, they have good qualification, they can't find a good job, and for the time being, any advice for them? Or?
You know, it's tough because you find a lot of that happening where people have the qualifications, but how do you break into the market? You know what? You have to network. You have to find out who are the movers and shakers of some companies, right? And if that means calling me up directly, calling an Andrea Case or a Carlene Nation, that's what I did. I joined an association, which we have, the Canadian Association of Black Journalists, for example. I called them. I went to all of their events. I stuck with it, you know. And I've had people call me out of the blue. Can I come and job shadow? You know, extend that to them. Can I come in? Can you walk me through your station one day? Get to know who the people are. Watch the programs. know the background about companies. Nothing worse than coming into a company and not having a clue as to, you know, who their audience is, who their market is, what type of programs, who's their audience. You have to know those things. So, but it really is, it's that networking which really is a key to introducing yourself into a large corporation, because the standard, you know, resume to HR will probably sit there, you know. So I suggest you partner with, and I did a lot of stuff locally. I went to Rogers Cable for years. You know, I worked on different programs. I called producers up personally at some stations, you know. I had my list of, you know, every day I'd set a goal. I'm going to talk to these 5 people. I'm going to talk to these 5 people. And I said, don't only look at the major market stations. Don't only look at the CTVs, the Global or the City. Look at some of the smaller stations. You know, look at some of the specialty channels. You know, we have the Discovery Channel, the Outdoor Living Network, you know, the smaller entities. There are some very good, smaller, you know, specialty channels that are out there. So, you know, don't aim high right away, because, you know what, you may get the door slammed. You have to talk to people in those communities, and that's what you do, you know.
Can you use one word to explain or to tell like how you would see videographer a job?
Oh, physical. The actual work of it, very physical. But you know what? I say persistence pays off. I mean, I applied it on my third attempt to apply at CTV. I got it. I applied twice before, and I lost out. But I said, you know, I never gave up. I was still doing my work at Rogers Cable, and still, you know, plugging away, getting stories on tape, always being ready and being persistent. I didn't take no for an answer. If I, you know, phoned, it didn't work out, I'd call somebody else. But you have to be aggressive in this business if you want to get ahead. That's, you know, as in any job, you have to be aggressive. You've got to stay the course if you're serious about doing what you want to do.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Hope that was good.
Very good.